Okay. We're gonna get into it. I just realized I had pressed stream on Streamlabs OBS and not the record button. So, so that's not good.
It's in the group chat right now.
All right. So take 3 of the Pacific let's get into it. You want to read that again?
Welcome to episode 2 of the Pacific Perspectives podcast. I am Nux Memes along with Kaylor Mimamoto, and this is the podcast where 2 fans of opposing teams, in this case the Canucks and Oilers, go head-to-head with discussions and arguments about their favorite teams. I'm going to swing it over to my co-host, Xavier, who is an idiot, and this is our third take of this. This is our third take of this exact podcast episode, because yesterday he forgot to record his audio, and now today he went live he hit the live button instead of the record button. But I'll swing it over to him now.
No comment. Today we're going to get into it. Oh, man, that was so bad. Oh, that was awful. How do you press... Oh, man. I was recording the desktop audio, and it didn't include the microphone for some reason. So that's not on me. But pressing go live, it says go live. It doesn't say record. So that second one is fully on me. But now we're here, take 3. So we're going to get into it. We're going to be talking about the Oilers and Canucks struggles early, how they both only got a win in their 4th game. Oilers barely won that 4th game, by the way. Actually, same with the Canucks. But we're going to talk about why that was going down and the issues revolving around the Oilers and Canucks. Why do you think that the Canucks only got a win in their 4th game?
Okay, for the 3rd time, I think we lost to the script a little bit. I think, I don't feel bad about 2 of the 3 losses that we had. The first loss was against Calgary, and them winning their first game of the season, I feel like they had to do that. I think that was something that was going to happen. Blowing the lead wasn't fun, but I feel like Calgary deserved to start the season off on a high note, obviously because they lost Johnny over the offseason. Not the team, but you know what I mean. And then the game against Tampa, I don't feel bad about because it was their first game since their first home game since Hurricane Milton, and they kind of had to win that too. The game against Philadelphia, that was annoying. They should have won that one. That's on Daniel Sprong. But, you know, maybe we could have beat Philadelphia in overtime if we just tripped their player to get the puck. Obviously, that's how you do it. So.
That was not a trip. That was a clean fall. No argument whatsoever. I'm realizing what you mean by the script. Originally, I thought you meant like the script that the Canucks have to lose early, like how the Oilers did. But now it makes perfect sense. Yeah, like the Flames getting their first win. I felt honestly like hockey gods. That was inevitable. Tampa as well also suffered a tragedy, and that felt very natural for them to win that game. Of course, when I was watching.
Yeah, I want to be clear. I don't mean an actual script. It wasn't script written to win.
It was scripted.
They were playing for something bigger than hockey, so they deserved to win those.
No, Gary Bettman wrote it down on a piece of paper, and they reviewed it before the game in the locker room and said, "All right, boys, let's get out there. Let's go get them." All right, what's your opinion on? And this is hotly contested. I've seen this everywhere on Canucks Twitter. What are your thoughts on Elias Pettersson and his struggles right now?
So Elias Pettersson is the major negative talking point of the Canucks so far, due to the fact he has 0 goals and 2 assists in 5 games.
Oh, he does have points. Interesting.
Yeah, because Höglander goat. But honestly, he still hasn't been that bad. Obviously, there's not much of an excuse for 2 points in 5 games. You need production out of a guy who you're paying $11.7 million. But he's looking better. I think I saw a lot of people talking about the fact he kind of could benefit from a sports psychologist, and I don't want to speak on someone else's mental health, but he does seem a lot of the time like he's in his own head. And if he's in a dry spell, then he's beating himself up, and nothing goes right for him. And I think he needs to have more short-term memory loss about it, because he's a great player. He's going to come back from this, but he needs to work out some of the mental game first.
Yeah, I feel like I've noticed that a lot with a lot of the young guys. They maybe even Pedersen, who already has had a 100-point year, right? Uh, he he doesn't have as much of an established base to really get confidence from. Like, oh, I've been this good of a player for this long, so I'll get over this. How much of that do you think is genuinely just bad luck, like it's not going in, and like he's actually playing bad?
Honestly, he's still like a good player, and he was putting up, he was getting a lot of opportunities. He was giving like DeBrusque a bunch of opportunities in that Florida game. It just wasn't going in. So, judging by your view of hockey, it should start going in for him at some point, because his
PDO
PDO
regression.
right now,
Yeah.
as a solo player, isn't great. He's underperforming his analytics. I'm putting this into Miyamoto terms.
Miyamoto terms. I think I'd agree with that. But I mean, obviously, at a certain point, it becomes not bad luck and just poor finishing and faulty confidence with
Yeah, I
Pedersen.
mean he's been disappointing ever since signing that contract. The game after he signed that contract was the last time he scored an even strength goal. I'm not here to defend him and
Damn.
say he's a great player right
No
now
way.
and it's just all bad luck. He's been bad, but there are reasons for it, and I think he's going to turn it around.
I actually, that puts it in context, honestly, of how
Yeah,
poor he's been. I mean,
in like
I'm
35
sure
games.
he'll turn it around. I'm not at the point where I'm confidently going to like pick him up in fantasy for like another player, but you'd have to think he still ends up with like 90 points, 35 goals at least, right?
Yeah, he goes on streaks. Speaking of slow starts, a certain guy by the name of Evan Bouchard is off to one of those. How do you feel about that, and how do you feel about the fact that Philip Broberg is just simply better in every single sense of the term?
Okay, listen. Evan Bouchard has, I'd say in the first 3 games, genuinely played really bad. However, you can look at that in the vacuum and go, oh, well, I mean, I guess last year was a fluke. But last year, or no, I'll say at the beginning of this year, the first 3 games, and even towards the next 3, Nuge, awful. Draisaitl could not care less about hockey right now. Connor McDavid, he finally woke up, but man, that was the worst I've ever seen him. Basically, since he had that terrible injury with Giordano and he came back that year, was McDavid was still McDavid, but he wasn't like super dominant. And that's kind of what he looked like. He just kind of looked like he wasn't as invested. And can you really blame them after being 1 goal away from the Stanley Cup like a few months ago, and now you're playing regular season hockey in October? It's a completely different game. Completely different game. So I don't blame them for playing awful.
I will.
But at the same time, you can feel a lot better knowing that they're not genuinely playing terrible. They aren't as invested. But they are now, I'd say. They needed some losing to kick them in the butt and understand that these games do matter.
All right. Well, what are your thoughts on Broberg right now?
Okay. Okay. I saw that post from Buck Empire, and it made me a little upset, but that's okay. I understand Panos, he's going for the engagement bait. Gotta respect it, because like that is wonderful, and it got me to post it on my story. I didn't even realize until afterwards that he was going for that complete direction. But dude, Broberg is not that good. He is not. He's all right. He's good. I enjoyed him, and he's kind of a cool player. But I've seen people genuinely saying that Broberg was always a better defenseman, as in he was a better defenseman than Bouchard last year when he broke the assists record in the playoffs. Or even saying that like Bouchard isn't an NHL defenseman when he's off the power play. What in the Jesus tap dancing, backflipping, dunking on Shaq Christ are you even talking about? Like, do you watch? These people clearly do not watch Evan Bouchard play hockey, and if they do, they see the little clips of him like fumbling at the blue line, which, by the way, only happens because he plays 25 minutes a night. You're going to fumble the puck occasionally. Everybody, Cale Makar does it. Okay, look at the numbers. Bouchard is way more positive. It's not even a matter of him being more positive than negative. He is like more positive on the analytics sheet than anybody. Obviously, that doesn't automatically make him the best defenseman, but, like, come on. Just because he has 1 goal in 6 games and Broberg has 6. By the way, besides one of those assists in the first game, all of those points are complete flukes. Did you see his first goal?
No.
The goalie basically fell down and he just sent it in from the corner and it went in. And I think that was the tying goal.
You got to be good to be lucky.
You do have to be good to be lucky. I'm not saying Broberg is bad. It's just people are going in with this retrospective look. If you look at the comments from that offer sheet when it was signed, most people said they should not match Broberg. They should match Holloway, who, by the way, is not playing that good in St. Louis. I got to say, he's really not performing amazingly. They started on the top line. I don't think he's really done much. He did score a couple games ago, or actually last game. But either way, do we honestly think Broberg is even going to get 45 points and be a plus player? If you do, you need to see a mental institution. You need to see the inside of the insane asylum because, man, they got to lock you up.
Well, at least he doesn't give the puck to the other team as much as Bouchard does. Anyway, moving on from this conversation because I don't want to
taking everything in my soul to not say anything.
I want to take this little break from the Canucks Oilers conversation now because I feel like I'm gonna need it. I have never in my life tried Pink Whitney before, but I have a bottle of Pink Whitney right beside me, and now I'm going to do my first impressions.
Yeah. When I first had it, I probably had it at some high school Halloween party, probably around right now. I really didn't like it, and then I had it, and exactly a year later, they must have changed like the formula or something. It genuinely tasted like a very good like mixed drink. Like I honestly I do like Pink Whitney now, so I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
Well, I was gonna save this segment for later in the podcast, and then you started talking about Evan Bouchard, and then I realized I'm probably just gonna want.
You're gonna need a drink.
I'm gonna go through this whole conversation again. So here we go. First taste test of Pink Whitney.
Oh, that's a solid swig. Oh my goodness. That's why half the bottle.
Oh my god! That was a bad idea. I should not have done that.
I would say, what is it like? What is it like? 40 proof?
It's 30%.
Gee, what? 30%? It does not taste like 30%.
That's kind of strong. I mean, I don't mind it. I should have mixed it maybe, but I think it's more fun to go out of the bottle.
I think I actually prefer it right out of the bottle. I don't love mixing it. I don't know.
All right. Well, out of 10, you know what? I'll give my rating at the end while I'm drinking it more. After I've had more.
Are you going to drink that entire bottle over the course of this podcast?
I guess we'll see how angry you make me.
Well, I feel like I've already done that. I think I got it all out though. I think I got it all out. All right. So I wanted to ask. Demko, by the way, I'm a Demko fantasy owner, I gotta say. I mean, I got him like 200th overall, so I'll take it. But what's the timeline on him right now? Is he supposed to play late November?
It's looking like mid-November, I think, right now.
Mid-November?
Maybe late November. I guess it depends on a couple things, but...
If you... I don't know how much... Do you think that this is going to... Hold on, I'll take a second. How screwed do you think the Canucks are if Demko either gets re-injured or doesn't come back on time?
It's so early to make assumptions on our goalie situation right now. But after 3 games of Kevin Lankinen, I currently have a lot of confidence in him. He had that beautiful shutout against Philly last game, and other than that, his other 2 games were very well played. He deserved to win in both of them. Only got to win in one of the other 2, but he's great. I mean, he was great in Nashville last year. He was better than Saros, and so for this year, he's been quite a bit better than Saros, I'd say. But I don't know how sustainable it is. He's been good in the past, so I think I can have some confidence in him now. I'm not really that worried about Demko's timeline. And the beautiful part about Lankinen playing really well so far, and hopefully he continues it, is that we don't have to rush Demko back. We can wait until he's definitely ready to go.
I think that's
so. That signing was so huge because Shilovs is shaky, and even in the playoffs, he was good. He was a good goalie, but he was prone to games where he just was not playing well at all. People don't want to admit it because he's only 23. He's young. He's going to be a good goalie, but right now he's not the kind of guy.
Something about him and Cody Ceci shots from the point. I don't know what it is.
Ian Cole's the one who's tipping it home.
That was really something else. Like in 3 like really important game, you had him stopping like point blank McDavid to Draisaitl on the power play, glove catching on the side, goes in 90% of the time on any goalies. Cody Ceci takes a floater from 80 feet out, boom, back of the net, no tip.
That makes no sense. He's not good at long range shots, and people are learning
weird.
That.
It's just really weird.
It is.
It was really a similar problem that Mikko Koskinen had. Like, just because he's so big, he stops most things that most goalies wouldn't. But he's like, he doesn't have very good precision or those twitch muscles, like right on the hand on the outside from long distance shots that you need to focus on. I'm no goalie expert, but it's weird.
I have a bit of a problem with you comparing Shilovs to Koskinen, but I get the sentiment.
Yes.
I feel like we don't need Demko currently. We're gonna start winning more games. We're 2-1-2 right now, which isn't great, but it's not bad. Lankinen's
not terrible.
2-0-1. So
I take it over 2-4.
I was really excited when we signed Lankinen. I didn't think we were gonna get it done because we were trying for like a month.
Yeah,
he did not have cap space, and he did not want to sign for less than $1 million. But he did. We wore him down, and he's gonna get paid this offseason, I think.
Oh yeah, he'll become a backup that gets like 2.5.
Yeah, but even like if you're looking at like Colorado, like they could use him as a starter. He's by far better than Georgiev. He's by far.
Honestly, Georgiev has genuinely had good numbers over the course of a season. The past few seasons, I think he'll be fine, but he might be another guy who also needs like a sports psychologist. Like a lot of the problems are just in his head. Like he stops a lot of really good chances, and then some of the bad ones they should not be going in, but they do. And same with Saros. I think early season results. I think they got to be bouncing back. They have to. I can't see a world where they don't finish above like a 900 save percentage.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into the Saros discussion when we talk about a different topic later. We'll get into that.
Oh, we'll get into that. Yeah.
Oh, you wanted to talk about Skinner, so that's a good transition to make. What do you think of Skinner?
I said some things in that Dallas game. Sometimes Stuart Skinner is so incredibly frustrating to watch.
Sometimes
not particularly because of the types of goals he lets up. I don't think he's really prone to letting up like bad goals, kind of like a Mikko Koskinen type would, or like a Cam Talbot in his waning years of Edmonton, how he just let in the first shot, terrible shot from the point, like a tip from really far away, and it's like, how does that go in over and over again? How do you not address this? Skinner is a really good low danger save percentage, but everyone knows it by now. He has awful lateral movement, and it doesn't look like they're targeting that in the summer when they practice with Dustin Schwartz. And I mean, we saw it in the playoffs. He will bounce back. I don't really have confidence in him to be a good starter. I have confidence in him to be a good tandem goalie. And I mean, you can't say that, oh, you can't win with Skinner. I've heard that a lot. In fact, I said that. I'm going to dial that back. They almost did win with Skinner last year. Like, if a bounce goes the other way, they win the cup. And that doesn't mean that Skinner would suddenly be better next year just because they won the cup. He is going to have his bad moments. He's not going to be an elite starter for much of the year. He doesn't even go really on a lot of hot streaks, I'd say. He just can be a good goalie for a sustained period of time. That's all you need. And he's paid nothing. He makes absolutely no money. I've seen comparisons to. I think maybe you've seen the Sportsnet crew were talking about all the goalie contracts that have been signed lately. Saros, Swayman, Ottinger all signed around the same amount, and they were saying, "What does that mean for Stuart Skinner's next deal?" Nothing. Are you kidding me? Why would that have any bearing on Stuart Skinner? You know, Evan Bouchard, he signs for $10 million. What does that mean for Brett Kulak's new deal? Literally has nothing to do with that. Complete different echelons of goalie. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's weird to compare goalies. Well, any player that just isn't on the same tier as another one. I think Stuart Skinner deserves maybe like
4.5
minimum at best. I'd say.
What number did you say?
Less than league minimum.
They're gonna make a whole new labor dispute just because they got to pay Stuart Skinner less.
Yeah, okay, so at least we can agree on the fact that Stuart Skinner is bad, but we disagree on the fact that he's just never going to be good.
He has been bad. In fact, I think he's second last in goal save above expected. It's like -6 right now, which makes a lot of sense. He's letting in a goal more per game than he should. Anyways, my original point was it's not the goals that he lets up, it's when he lets them in. And there's no greater example of this than in Game 7. The Oilers were roaring back. If you look at the Florida's game-winning goal, the second goal, the Oilers are kind of rolling over Florida for, I think, like 5 minutes. They had like 5 shots. Florida had 0. And they were really owning them in that period. And then it comes back the other way for 1 chance. And the Oilers previous to that had probably 3 chances of the same quality. Stuart Skinner lets it in most of the time. He has a really bad high danger save percentage. So that's why it makes a lot of sense why last year when they had changed their defensive systems under Woodcroft and they were like bottom of the league when it comes to allowing high danger chances and breakaways. That's why they sucked so much. That's why Stuart Skinner had like a 700 save percentage early on last year. And not really the same thing is happening this year. Obviously, his save percentage is better than that, but they're still giving up a few more high danger chances than they would have preferred. But just he needs to get that lateral movement out of the way, kind of just improve on it, even just a little bit. Maybe you can get those cross crease passes. I don't know. I'm no goalie whisperer.
Okay, I can only take so much conversation about Stuart Skinner before I want to cry. So a swift little transition here. It's obvious our teams have been off to a bad start, but who on the team has been impressing you?
People, especially people that haven't watched the Oilers, are probably going to disagree with this. I love Victor Arvidsson. Another candidate for this is Jeff Skinner, but I think the numbers are there, and we all kind of expected that. You know, that's a pretty easy candidate to get like 30 goals, 30 assists, 60 points. That was obvious. Victor Arvidsson is better than advertised. I know. He has 0 points, -5. Doesn't matter to me. He has been the best forechecker on the team. I was told, and I have to be honest, I hadn't intently watched Victor Arvidsson's game, mostly due to the fact that he was injured for those King series where I would watch him for extended periods of time. He is probably the best forechecker on the team in the top 9. Even better than Hyman, at least so far, because Hyman's kind of been dog water. But Hyman will get better. But Victor Arvidsson as well, it's going to start going in for him. I believe he actually had 3 points on the 4 disallowed goals that were taken off the board. So you can say he has zero production, but like he has been good. He's just objectively he has. I saw the Mike Bartner post about people who are struggling on new teams. Victor Arvidsson's not struggling at all. I think if you asked him right now, he would probably tell you the same thing, that he's felt comfortable, he's felt great, he's on a line with Draisaitl. I think it's looking good for him. I think he could score 30. What about you?
You think he could score 30?
I think he could score 35.
Okay, wait. So you have Jeff Skinner. You think he could score 50? You think Arvidsson can score 35?
There's There's a
How many
caveat
is
to that.
Hyman? You said Hyman scoring like 35, right? You have him dropping off like off a cliff.
Yeah,
What are these
and
projections, man?
if there's a caveat to if I think Skinner can score 50 like at his max. I think it's more likely he's at 40, which is what he's kind of on. I think not what he's on pace for, but he's one goal away from being on pace for that. I think 40, 35 is likely. He can score 50. Same with Arvidsson. More likely 25, but I think he could score 30. Like, I'd give it like a 35% chance. If he gets a little bit of power play time, we've already seen from Jeff Skinner replacing Nugent Hopkins.
Yeah, you also last episode said Bouchard is going to score 100 points. But moving on from that,
that's not happening anymore.
Going on to the Canucks that have impressed me. I mean, this is obvious. If you've been paying attention to my account, especially my story at all, you know I love Kiefer Sherwood with all of my heart. This guy is the Bull. I'm calling him the Bull now. It's his name now. He's the Bull because he hits everything that moves. In the last 2 games, he has 19 hits. He leads the league right now with 32 hits in 5 games. He has a goal. He has an assist. He blocks shots. He kills penalties.
That is insane.
He kills penalties. Plays defense. He's all around. He's amazing. I love this guy so much.
What's his contract?
It's 2 years, like 1.3 million or something.
Oh, I thought it was 2.
I don't remember contracts that well. Hang on, it's time to Google.
I do feel like it's 1 million, but getting him for 2 years is kind of massive.
It's 1.5 per year.
Okay.
So yeah, 2 years, 1.5 mil for a dude who
solid signing
is going to be a crazy energizer guy all season long. I love this guy. He's already been my favorite player this season. It's either him or Höglander overall, and I really want to buy a Sherwood jersey immediately, but I don't want to overreact yet.
For a 2-year contract, Sherwood, I don't know.
Now, I'm writing an article for Canucks Chronicles. Check it out if you haven't. It's about the Canucks that have impressed me, so we're kind of going into this conversation now. But another guy who I've really loved is Teddy Bluger. And we knew what to expect from him from last season. We know he's a defensive forward first. He was probably our best penalty killer in the playoffs. But we also know he has some offensive skill. But we are seeing a different side of Teddy Bluger so far, and I love it. This guy has grit. He's angry. Something angered him, and I don't know what it was. He got in a fight with Uvis Balinskis. Like, why did Teddy Bluger get in a fight? But he also has just been, like, setting up great chances. Makes all the guys around him look good, look better than they are. He makes them better. And his positioning is perfect on both sides of the ice. He's probably gotten the best chances of any Canuck so far this season. And he has 2 goals already, 3 points in 5 games. So I love Bluger. And also, I talked about Lankinen, but Lankinen has impressed me a lot too.
Dang, that's high praise. That's high praise. That reminds me of, and I talked about this before we forgot to record the audio, but Teddy Bluger saved my fantasy.
We forgot to record the audio. We forgot to record the audio.
Yes, we are an entity. We are an entity, whether you like it or not. Teddy Bluger. This is a good story. Teddy Bluger saved my fantasy season last year. I almost I secured a spot in the semifinals because there was one game on the last Sunday of that week in the quarterfinals, and we were tied. Like, I think my opponent had like 0.4 more points. And this is a league where most weeks you'll end up with around 400, 500 points. Just to give you context for the scoring. So that is ridiculously close. Nobody else. And there's one game left. Most other matchups, you'd imagine it's already been decided. We both had... I had one pickup left. He had one pickup left. There was only, I think it was a Canucks Tampa or like Canucks Leafs game in March. And I look at them, I look at Data Driven Hockey's model, and I pick up Teddy Bluger. He was the best available forward for me. And you know what? He did nothing that game. He got a face-off win, and he got maybe a block and a shot on goal, but that was enough. I won by like 0.5, and it felt amazing. I didn't end up even getting third place, but That felt very good. I have a place in my heart. Even though he's a Canuck and I hate the Canucks, I have a special place in my heart for Teddy Bluger now, because man, he clutched up for me. Very clutch face-off win. One face-off win.
I have a similar story, but it's kind of the opposite side. I was in the fantasy quarterfinals, and my opponent hadn't made any of his 5 pickups throughout the week, and I was winning by like a solid 7 points. Not really solid, but it was close, and I was winning by a bit. I was hoping he'd forget to pick up people, but on the Sunday, the Canucks are playing Anaheim, and he picks up 5 different Canucks players, and these are like Pius Suter, Teddy Bluger, Shilovs, Zadorov, Myers, I think. But the important one of those is Suter, because there was a point in the game where I was only up by like maybe a point or something, and I didn't have any players in the game left. And Suter passed it into Dakota Joshua, who went between the legs and roofed it to effectively end my fantasy season.
Ooh.
And I remember watching that and knowing right then that I had lost, and just thinking, that was a cool goal. At least it was a cool goal.
I would feel so conflicted. Like if Evan Bouchard on like a hat trick lost me my fantasy season because I was playing him, I'm all in on fantasy. I think I would genuinely feel way more mad than happy for the goals. I don't know.
I think it made me feel better because I could at least lean on the fact that it benefited me, and it was a cool goal by one of my favorite players. So whatever. I wasn't supposed to make it that far anyway. I'm terrible at fantasy, and that league is full of
agree. That leads us into a conversation about, we actually made a trade today, didn't we? I think it just went through. In fact.
Oh yeah, it did like just process.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. All right,
so
here, I'll read it out.
All right.
This was the trade. So Xavier. No, I'll say my part first. I sent Xavier, Matthias Ekholm, Radko Gudas, and Patrick Kane. And in return, do you want to say who you gave me?
I gave him Jeremy Lazon, I gave him Josh Manson, and I gave him UC Saros. Now, yeah, you got to understand, in this league, and people are saying in the fantasy group chat that this is a terrible move for me, and I think it actually had more vetoes than not, but ultimately it was upheld. I don't see this being that bad for me because, first of all, I like the defenseman I'm getting. I think Gudas is extremely underrated for fantasy because people think he's just some grit monster. Ekholm, he gets way more points than he should, but he also gets those hits and stuff because naturally that's just who he is. I took Saros, I think 29th or 28th overall. That's the ultimate fumble here. I don't think that trade. I think the trade is perfectly even because I don't really believe in Lazon this year. I mean, he's not getting that many hits again. At least that's not how it's been so far. Saros will be good. He will finish as like a top 10 goalie this year. He might even get Vezina votes. You never know. But he has, with the goalie settings in this league, goalies are not good in this league is the issue. And I didn't really realize that because in my other leagues with my own scoring settings, goalies are treated a lot more differently. Saros went like 15th. And they're worth a lot more. It's not really possible for them to go negative in a game. Just for context, I have had a goalie go negative last week. Cam Talbot let in like 5 goals on like 15 shots, and he was like negative 0.5, like nothing. And Saros was negative when he let in like 6 on like 40 shots. Personally, I think it's unfair, but I think in the context of this deal, it makes sense for me.
I find this so funny because you were fighting for your life to defend your side of this in the group chat last night. I honestly, I had to consider it. I talked to our commissioner, Rory, and I asked him, do you think I should take this trade? Do you think it's good for me? I should have gone to Hockey Ranks. That's my bad. He's my senior advisor. But the thing about this is that I drafted a good fantasy defense, and I got Ekholm, I got Gudas, and I wanted to have a fantasy defense I could rely on. But my goalies are so bad. like my main goalie is Jordan Bennington, and my second goalie slot is a rotating slot. So I had Tarasov in that slot. I had Vanacek in that slot. I had Soderblom in that spot.
Okay.
So I needed a goalie, and Saros I'm really low on. Like,
I don't know.
As like a player beyond fantasy, I'm really low on Saros. I think he's kind of overrated. I don't think he's that great.
Damn.
But I know he's not going to be 0-4 forever. So I
believing in the regression.
I wanted to have confidence in my goalies, which I do. Saros and Bennington is a decent 1-2 for fantasy.
I would say so.
The problem too is that like Bennington, like Hofer's stealing starts from Bennington now.
Really? I was going to say Bennington actually is a pretty good guy to work a tandem with.
He is, yeah. Bennington's good. Hofer's been great. Hofer had that shutout against, I think, who was it? I don't even know. Who cares?
Bennington was a go for me last year. Although
he was,
I got to admit, it was because I think he was like 5th overall for goal, like 4th, something stupid. But the reason he was so good for me was because I got him so low, because people thought Bennington sucked before, even during last year, and he was like top 5 in goals saved above expected. He was crazy.
Another part of this trade is that you think Patrick Kane is averaging 3 fantasy points per game from here on out. Why?
Listen, did you see Data Driven Hockey's post on the the buy low candidates?
No,
I didn't think so. Patrick Kane, he's still going to get 60 points. He's still going to score 25 goals. Like I don't know why that would change. He's going to start slow, but he's going to be good. He gets better as the season goes on. And the same thing with Saros. This is why I think the trade is fair, because you're trading 2 guys who have had slow starts. Now, obviously, Saros, you don't trade that 1-for-1 for Patrick Kane. But I think the value in bouncing back is there for both guys. So really, that's why I did it.
Yeah, I honestly, I wish we could have someone else on right now to roast the shit out of you. I don't really mind I think trading Saros this early is pretty crazy, but I think you got...
It is a little early.
Well, actually, you didn't really get the greatest value of it. The best player you got is Patrick Kane, so...
I think...
I'm pretty happy with my side of it.
I don't think anyone would have given me better value, and I get 3 players that I specifically wanted to get in the draft.
Oh yeah, the trade's through. My goalies are now Jordan Bennington, UC Saros.
You want to know my goalie tandem after this trade?
What is it?
My goalie tandem is Peter Mrazek and Yaroslav Askarov. That's it. That's all that there is. And you know what? In my other league, in the like $200 buy-in, I have possibly the best goalie tandem I think I've ever even conceived of. I have Connor Hellebuck, Samuel Montembeault, Joel Blomqvist, Jesper Wallstedt, and Demko. So I know that goaltending can be good when you value it, but in this league, I don't even care. I don't even want to think about goalies anymore. That's why I win this trade.
I only got 3 points from goalies all of last week, and I lost by like 10 points, I think. So if I had like one good goalie start in there, I could have won the week. But yeah, I'm 0-2 in this fantasy league. I didn't even speak on. I spoke on the Bouchard draft pick yesterday. I don't think they know. I drafted Evan Bouchard 14th overall in this league just to spite Xavier. I didn't think it was a good pick. It wasn't a good pick. But Xavier was like, "Oh, I can get him in round 3. I can get him in round 2." I was like, "I'm not letting that happen."
I explicitly said before the draft, if he's there at 28th, which is my second pick, I'm not taking him. Because why would you? You're reaching.
I just wanted to ruin your day.
Let alone 14.
I would rather lose the $300 than let you be happy. Quite simply.
That is the definition of true hate. I think I actually have to respect that because, wow, that's dedication to the cause.
My fantasy defense kind of sucks now, though. It's Bouchard.
Exactly.
Bouchard is going to be better. Bouchard will be better. Jonas Brodin is amazing. I love him so far.
Is he really good for fantasy this year?
Yeah, he's at 2.8, and like he has 0 goals, 2 assists in 5 games, and he's averaging 2.8. His last game he had no points, but he had 3.55 fantasy points.
What a bum!
6 blocked shots last game.
6?
Yeah, I messed with Jonas Brodin. My team sucks though. My team's awful.
Before we wrap up this pod,
I want to talk about the Flames. We were talking about the Flames yesterday, and how if we were to ever add a third co-host, it would be a Flames fan, because that's the obvious one, but we don't really know anybody who would fit.
I don't know any Flames fans.
So maybe one day there will be there will be a Flames fan on this podcast. They aren't quite as significant right now, but we both kind of agree that we are cheering for the Flames. We want them to do well. We don't think they're going to, but I'm very happy to see them get off to a great start. Obviously, they were my least favorite team a couple years ago, but then they became so bad, and they got Kuzmenko, and I feel bad for Huberdeau. I like Sharangovich. I like their team a lot. So I want to see them do well now. I cheered for Edmonton over them in the playoffs a couple years ago, and I can't believe that they're back.
Yeah, I can't. In hindsight, that is crazy. I do gotta say, I'm gonna go on my rant about the Flames as well. But I really do love Kuzmenko. He's great. That's such a big fumble. Why did we take him to Joey's, man? That was.
I can't wait till he gets traded. I'm assuming he's gonna get traded at the deadline. And I want to see him play playoffs so bad.
To Edmonton?
I will actually cry. I don't think Calgary would do that. I don't think they would do that. I don't think
they would. There's been so many instances of them not doing things with Edmonton just out of spite.
They will help the Canucks. They gave us Lindholm. They gave us Zadorov. I don't think they're helping Edmonton.
That's true. I think with the Canucks, even though they are still kind of Canadian rivals, it's nowhere near the same. But I don't know. A lot of Flames fans seem to have this insane hatred to the Oilers, and I understand it, because I kind of do not like most of the teams that have eliminated us in the playoffs. But I do have to say, I don't really hate the Panthers at all, especially their fans. I mean, there's not many of them, let's be honest. But
what fans?
Exactly. But
we're going to have one on someday.
We might, yeah. Jared Barkov memes. But I hate the Jets more than I hate the Panthers.
Me too.
And the Jets beat us in the first round. The Panthers beat us in the finals. Like, that's just weird, isn't it? I don't know. I have no reason to hate the Panthers. It was a fair game.
Jets fans are more annoying simply because there's nothing better to do in Winnipeg than watch hockey. They
tend to have a like kind of little brother mentality. Like, what about us? What about us? Yeah. You are the smallest. Nobody wants to go to Winnipeg. I'll be honest, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't love Winnipeg that much. I don't know. What were you gonna say before I cut you off to go on the Calgary rant?
So the Flames, I was the same as you were 2 years ago. I really did not. Well, I guess 3 years ago now. They were probably my least favorite team, along with the Jets and the Kings. Still, actually, I mean, again, I just feel bad for the Kings now. Let's be honest, but I can't hate the Flames. I really can't. I do genuinely really want them to do good in the future, because the rivalry isn't good if the Flames aren't good, and the Flames have never actually been good, especially in the playoffs. They've had no trajectory. I've been imploring them since as early as 2020. I was like, just rebuild. You have no chance of winning with this. They did have a chance with like Tkachuk, Gaudreau, that group, but obviously that fell through. And I just, ever since, how do you not immediately go into rebuild mode after you get that trade request from Tkachuk? And you just continue to get older when you pick up Huberdeau. I feel really bad for them because that team has no direction. Now they do. Now they know that they're rebuilding, although they've barely said it. They got a new building, and they got a lot of good young players. I can't feel bad for them because they just suck. And I feel that pain with their fans because the Oilers sucked for so long as well. And I know how it feels, especially when the reason that you suck is really bad management and ownership. I feel like, and I mean, the cities are basically the exact same. They're right there. There's a lot in common that Oilers fans have with Flames fans, and sometimes we got to admit that. Was it really that bad?
Your sentence as I was in the middle of a swig. Yeah, I don't feel bad for the Flames because like they're going through the regular process a team does. They're just in rebuilding mode now. They had their window. They couldn't do it. They got McDavided. And then everybody left because nobody wants to stay in Calgary. Can't blame them. But I love the Flames. I think they're such a fun team now. No expectations whatsoever. There's no pressure on them to perform. They're just having a good old time. They're playing for something bigger than hockey, and it's hard to cheer against. I mean, I cheered for Edmonton in the playoffs so many years in a row. It was actually up until last playoff. I loved the Oilers. And now, whenever they lose, I get really hard.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you for all listening, and we'll see you next time on the Pacific Perspectives podcast. Thank you.
Shout out Kiefer Sherwood.